They call me Cinderella, a name forged from soot and ash whispered in kitchens and corridors like a curse. But I was never the helpless girl in rags. I was fire, caged in flesh. My real name is Lady Cendrienne of House Virilin. My mother was noble and sharp as winter glass. My father, a kind man, too kind. His weakness was love, and it killed him. I was 10 when she arrived, Lady Isadora Grell, widow of a baron, her fortune gone, her ambition hungry. She brought with her 2 daughters, Marcilla, with her fake sweetness and fluttering lashes, and Druselle, a brute with braids and fists. They came like smoke after fire. My father welcomed them. I smiled and sharpened my mind. Isadora bled my father dry behind silken smiles. She flattered, manipulated, whispered fears into his ears at night. Within a year, the estate was in her name. He signed it willingly. The night he died, they said it was fever. But I saw her hands tremble when the apothecary came. I saw the empty vial she hid in her bodice. I said nothing, because that night I made a vow. If they take my crown, I'll take their souls. I waited. I played the weakling. They made me a servant in my own home. Druselle mocked me. Marcilla stole from me. And Isadora, oh, she laughed as she passed my mother's portrait and had it burned. But I endured. I learned. While they painted their faces and practiced courtly smiles, I studied the art of vengeance. I stole books from the library. I learned how herbs can kill slowly. I watched rats die by my hand and recorded every result. And one day, I met Agatha. She was old, cloaked in shadow, living in the woods beyond the estate. The villagers feared her. They called her a witch. They were right. I found her when I was 15, bleeding from the whip Druselle used on me. Agatha looked at me and smiled. "You'll be queen," she said, "and you'll bathe in fire to earn it." 3 years passed. I smiled, I scrubbed, I served, but beneath that smile my mind wove webs thicker than silk and stronger than steel. Isadora thought she had broken me. She didn't realize I was becoming something worse than broken. I was becoming dangerous. When the royal decree arrived, an invitation to a grand ball where the prince would choose a bride, Marcilla and Druselle squealed like pigs in pearls. Isadora's eyes gleamed. "One of you will be queen," she said, staring right through me, "and that will be the end of her." They planned gowns and jewels while I fetched needles and served tea. But I had already written my plan in the ashes of my childhood. That night, I returned to Agatha. She awaited me by a cauldron of silver mist. "You're ready," she said, "but it'll cost you." "What do you want?" I asked. She held out a vial. Inside it swirled darkness itself. "Your kindness," she whispered. "Give it to me. You'll never cry for anyone again." I didn't hesitate. I drank. It burned. It clawed down my throat like thorns. When I woke, the forest was quiet and I felt nothing but clarity. No fear, no guilt, only calculated rage. I didn't need a pumpkin carriage or chirping birds. That's for storybooks. What Agatha gave me was more powerful. A gown of midnight lace that shimmered like obsidian and moved like smoke. Heels of glass that would only fit the rightful heir to vengeance. And a mask to charm even the most guarded heart. But the greatest gift? A curse woven into the glass slippers. Any foot that dared to wear them, anyone who tried to steal my place, would rot from the bone out. "You have until midnight," Agatha warned. "Not because magic fades, but because after midnight, The mask slips, and your true self shows. I want them to see, I said. Let them see the monster they created. The palace was ablaze with light and laughter. My arrival silenced it. I remember the way the chandeliers caught my gown, the way every noble girl hissed and blinked, and how the prince turned just once and could not look away again. Prince Alaric, tall, golden, with a boyish smile and a politician's eyes. "Who are you?" he asked. "Someone you'll never forget," I replied. We danced. He never looked at another, but I wasn't there for love. While we spun, I whispered about his enemies. I named the nobles who plotted behind his back. I offered him secrets, strategy, power. He was smitten, not with my beauty, but my mind. At 11:55, I vanished, left a single glass slipper, not by accident, but as bait. By morning, Alaric had declared, "Whosoever fits the slipper shall be my queen." And I waited for the chaos to unfold. The day after the ball, the kingdom pulsed with frenzy. Girls lined up in droves, some limping from shoes too small, others cutting their heels to force a fit. The slipper did not bend. It chose no one until it reached our estate. I watched from the shadows, sipping bitter tea as the royal guards marched in, slipper in hand. Prince Alaric remained at the palace, too noble to soil his boots on country filth. Or so I thought. Marcilla fluttered her lashes. "Let me try first," she cooed. She slid her foot in. A perfect fit. At first. Then came the scream. Blood poured from the edges of the slipper. Her foot twisted, bone cracking like snapped twigs. The guards leapt back as she collapsed, clutching her ankle, her eyes wide with horror. The slipper rolled across the floor, untainted. Druselle tried to run. "Witchcraft!" she shrieked, but the slipper caught her too. One accidental touch, and her fingers blistered, black veins crawling up her wrist like vines. Isadora fell to her knees. "Please, please, it wasn't them. Let Cinderella try. It's hers." The guard turned. "Cinderella." I stepped forward. Their eyes widened, not at my rags, but at my smile. The moment the glass touched my foot, it shimmered, clean, glowing, alive. Gasps filled the hall. Even the captain of the guard blinked twice. "Bring her to the palace," he said. Isadora lunged for me. "You ungrateful little..." I slapped her hard. "Your reign is over." And I left her on the marble floor, surrounded by her bleeding daughters. At the palace gates, Prince Alaric was waiting. He stared, stunned, as if seeing a prophecy walk through fire. "You," he breathed. "You returned." "I never left," I said. "I just waited." That evening we dined alone. He asked nothing of my past. He spoke of peace and unity and what it meant to rule. I spoke of control, of weeding out traitors, of how a queen must strike faster than a sword. By dessert, I had him. We married within the week. They called it love. But I saw the fear in his mother's eyes, the tremble in his advisor's hands. They felt it. The storm behind my veil, and they were right. The wedding was grand, drenched in white silk and golden lies, but beneath my veil I was not a bride, I was a weapon sharpened by betrayal. The kingdom rejoiced. A poor girl turned queen. How charming, how inspiring. But charm is a blade, and I wore it like a crown. The day after our coronation, I hosted a private tea. The guest list included the noblewoman who once spat at me outside the chapel, the merchant who sold my mother's jewellery to Isadora for half its worth, and of course the court historian who had already begun rewriting my story. By sunset, one choked, one vanished, and one had a scandal so vile he fled the capital. 3 down, a kingdom to go. I summoned Isadora and her daughters to the palace, not to reconcile but to finish the tale. Marcilla now walked with a cane, her beauty dimmed by pain. Druselle had lost 2 fingers to rot. Isadora had aged 10 years in a month. Cendrienne, Isadora said, kneeling, please, forgive us. Forgive? I laughed softly. I should thank you. I handed her a polished mirror. What is this? She asked. Your legacy, I said. Now look into it and understand what you've made. When she did, the mirror cracked. Her face reflected back 1,000 ways, each one twisted. I had it mounted in the royal gallery. A warning. The Grells now live in the servants' wing, and every morning they bow. Alaric tried, he truly did. He spoke of love, of growing close, but I was always 10 moves ahead. I fed him truths wrapped in lies, told him who to trust, who to fear, and slowly he leaned on me more, until he saw me in the garden one night, whispering to Agatha's raven, blood on my gloves. He didn't speak for days. When he finally asked, "What have you become?" I smiled and said, "Everything I was meant to be." He wept that night. I watched, unmoved. One morning, the king, my husband, was found dead, peacefully in bed, no wound, no poison traceable, but I know. He left a letter. "You were not the girl I danced with, but you are the queen this kingdom deserves. Now I sit on a throne not of gold, but of iron, sharp and cold. The people still cheer my name. They see a beautiful queen, a kind ruler. They do not know the truth, that beneath this velvet gown is a girl who once burned her own heart to cinders, a girl who rose from ash with vengeance in her veins. They think I am a fairy tale, but I am the warning. Sometimes, late at night, I wear the glass slippers again. They gleam under candlelight, still cursed, still perfect. And I dance, alone, in the hall of mirrors, because I remember her, the girl who once cried by the hearth and dreamed of being saved. I saved her, and in return, she died. Now there's only me. Queen Cendrienne the Cruel, Lady of Fire and Glass, the evil Cinderella,